Right. I think we can go ahead and get started because it seems like people rolling into the meeting have slowed down. So welcome everyone. So happy you guys can join us. We're here to talk about how to use LinkedIn to its best abilities. Joining us, we have Professor Jay Chang and also Amanda Parks and Robin Payne. If you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit more, so we have some background about where you're from, what you're doing, when you were at KU, etc. Robin, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, everyone. It's good to see some AIAS faces. I graduated in 2019, and through my time at Kansas was really involved with this organization. So it's really great to see you all here. After graduating, I moved to Boston. So I'm out on the East Coast now, and I work for Moshe Safdie at his architecture firm as the communications coordinator.
Nice. Amanda, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Amanda Parks. I graduated from KU in 2015. I received an electrical engineering degree in a business minor. So I was not directly involved with the School of Architecture, but being in the School of Engineering frequently overlapped and still do to this day. When I graduated, I joined an engineering firm called Burns & McDonnell, headquartered in Kansas City, and then moved to San Francisco and now reside in St. Louis, Missouri, where I act as a hiring manager. So I use things like LinkedIn all day and hire engineers and others alike to support our business.
Awesome. And Jay, want to give a background on who you are?
I'm Jay Chang, a faculty member in the Department of Architecture. I've been at KU for, I think, 18 years now. I started in 2004.
Cool. Awesome. So we can go ahead and just jump right into it. Just some people might not even realize that it's important to use LinkedIn. So how and why do professionals use LinkedIn, and what are they hoping to find when they open the platform? Whoever wants to go ahead.
So I can tell you that I use LinkedIn when I am actively seeking candidates. So as you all probably know, there's career fairs that colleges will put on. But when you leave the college world, you may still be looking for a career and not really know that you're looking for a career. So I don't get resumes handed to me outside of a career fair. I have to kind of go search and find those candidates. So a lot of times I'll get something and it'll be like, I really need somebody. I don't know where to start. Let me go search LinkedIn. And I, as a manager, just as an everyday user, I can go find people and be like, I know people from the school of KU, School of Architecture. Let me look there. But our recruiting managers can also look and do all sorts of tools and things and actively seek based on what's in your profile to kind of give themselves a candidate pool. It's something that I'm really glad that you all are talking about because it kind of seems like this thing that's out there and you don't really think about it, but think of it as your active resume. You might put your resume or your portfolio on a piece of paper and then you hand that to someone and maybe it sits on a desk or in an inbox for a while, but you can always update your LinkedIn. You can always pass that to people and they can always see what you have going on.
I can go next. So that's really cool to hear that perspective of Amanda from the recruiting side. I help with hiring at my firm, but that's not my job description. But so I can kind of come at this from someone who used LinkedIn actively when I was job searching. So I'll also kind of give a little anecdotal story that when I graduated in 2019, I used the job functions a lot. And so to see the listings, Safdie Architects had posted a job for actually marketing specialist. So a little side note, I also studied business. So I was interested in going to that side of the architecture kind of industry. And I applied to the marketing specialist position, but then I actually did some research and I found who the director of marketing was. And I had Premium at the time and I LinkedIn messaged them and said, hi, I just submitted my materials, had just a really short little blurb, but I wanted to connect to a person. I used LinkedIn to do that. And she actually got back to me and they had already hired for the marketing specialist position. But they said, what about communications coordinator? We see your LinkedIn, we see your background. This is an unposted position. Would you be interested? And I was, and that
while I think Robin's is frozen, I will add a little note for you all while she gets back in, that she noted something really key. Is she noted that she added a blurb when reaching out to a person. Just like many social media kind of based platforms, I get people that connect with me all day long, but if I don't know anything about them or why they're reaching out to me, it doesn't really help me or them to add them to my network. So when you're reaching out to someone, adding a blurb, it can be as simple as, I found you, I'm interested in a job, can we connect? Can you put me to the right person? That takes you kind of to the top of the pile. If I get 18 connections in a day and people don't put a blurb in there, the people that don't put a blurb are probably going to fall kind of to the bottom. Do I know you? Do I not? But if someone like Robin says, hey, I'm looking for a job, I'm trying to connect a person, they're more than likely going to catch my eye. So definitely use those blurbs and those, treat it like a personal relationship, just as if you met someone at like a career fair in person.
Hey, Liz, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask a question. Just kind of follow up on what Amanda was saying. When you're contacting people and you get connected via LinkedIn, you put that little blurb. One of the questions, I'm kind of jumping ahead to one of the questions you have listed here, like when and how should you reach out to people on LinkedIn? How quickly should you reach out to them? For me, I usually tell the students, right after a career fair, while still fresh, on both ends, to reach out as soon as possible, probably within 24 hours. So just wanted to kind of get your take on that. If you go to these events, sometimes you're meeting, they're usually kind of back to back, so you could, in a very short period of time, you can meet literally hundreds of people.
Yes.
And get bombarded by this. So is there something that you'd recommend that they do, or maybe maybe time-wise, and then in terms of the blurb that they put in, that can help kind of refresh your memory?
Yeah, I would say that especially if you've met someone in person. So if you're going on like a follow-up within a week, people are generally busy. Maybe I'm not looking at my computer the next day, but within a week while it's still fresh. And Jay, just like you said, that blurb that, hey, I met you at the career fair. I know you met, kind of like I know that I meet a lot of people, but if you say, hey, I met you at the career fair, great. That makes sense to me. That's a reason for us to connect. And it's really on, if you're trying to make the connection, it's really on you and your timeline to keep that up. Robin, I know you're back, so you may have some anecdotal to go with this, but once you reach out, don't let it sit there either. You've connected with me, we talked at the career fair. That may be kind of the end of our conversation, and that can totally be it. But you can also reach out to me in 6 months and say, hey, I met you at the career fair 6 months ago. Just like to check in, any chance you got anything new or anything I should know. So don't let it go stale if you really do want to connect with the person. And hopefully Robin's back, because I'm hoping that you have some things that go with that.
Yeah, so sorry everyone, my internet went out. I was gonna say, are we on the general advice, or are we still on the first question?
We jumped around a little bit, and we went on like when and how should you reach out to people on LinkedIn, and like sending notes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think my favorite part about LinkedIn, especially, I've kind of had this network and helped colleagues kind of connect with people, and for different opportunities, I've connected with others through your connections. So one of my favorite features of LinkedIn is to look at, like, if you're interested in a job and you see who's connected with that person. And we have a fabulous KU network. And so to reach out to, you could reach out to that person directly and have it be kind of like a cold caller, like Amanda said, if it's from the career fair, you already know them. But if this is someone that you do not know, but you have a connection, it's really a good idea to reach out to that person and have them make the connection, because they might know that person, and you can do kind of group chats in LinkedIn. And thankfully, if it's someone you already know, you can be informal with them. So you can say, like, for instance, it'd be like, Liz, meet Tess. I worked with Tess for various things, and Liz, take it from here. And then they can kind of start a new chat and start that way. So that's a really cool function that you can use on LinkedIn.
Great. So similar to that, with going off of like reaching out to people on LinkedIn, going down to LinkedIn etiquette, do's and don'ts, how should we interact with the people on LinkedIn? Like, is there anything that is taboo or bad practices, or something that you recommend with reaching out to people?
Robin, you want to start this one? I'm happy to go, but I'll pass it back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the do's and don'ts of LinkedIn, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and that's LinkedIn is not any social media. So this is kind of less so of, well, kind of, whenever you reach out to someone, like it still is a professional network. And then when they're postings, I think it's really important to continue to the thread that is professional development or interesting things or workplace or architecture related. So I would just be very careful with how you act on messaging and the things that you post, and just we have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have LinkedIn. So it's a professional network, and use it accordingly.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too is all at the same time, that is exactly correct. It is professional. It's the same as if I'm sitting in a business meeting and I'm emailing you. We have also evolved a bit as a society that you can show your personality with those posts and things too. So if your professional development is talking about your portfolio or projects you want to work on, but also you're extremely passionate about engaging in the community. Like for me, I like to do STEM outreach, work with kids in the K-12. No, that doesn't directly work for my everyday job, but that is a part of who I am and a thing that in my professional world, I want people to know about. So using those things to kind of share your personality and your interests, kind of back to like the resume. When you put a resume, if I have two in front of me and they look exactly the same, what's going to make them stand out? Think of your LinkedIn profile and the things that you post the same way. Those that are more active on LinkedIn tend to be people that you're going to catch. They're going to kind of filter the top of your list. And likes and everything are totally a part of LinkedIn. So like even just liking things, you don't necessarily have to post your own content, just like it. Say, oh, Robin, you got a new job. Congratulations, Robin. You know, those kind of things help make you visible.
I'll piggyback really quick off of that too. I also really love when people like comment and do like thought leadership or like pose a question. So if you are doing a post, you can always have like, you can share something and then write your own thing, or in the commentary, you can kind of start a conversation. I think that's always really interesting to see and to use and to utilize.
Jay, do you have anything to add from the professor's standpoint? Okay. So you talked a little bit about like LinkedIn being similar to a resume. How does the usefulness of LinkedIn differ from a resume?
So for me, I'll go back to kind of my first point. It's your live update. So where your LinkedIn kind of has a resume section, if you will. And if you're like me, I took my resume and for the most part, I popped it to LinkedIn because I didn't want to recreate the wheel. But there's so much more to it, and it's those other interactions and things. It'll tell you at the bottom of your profile, Amanda liked this lately, Amanda shared this, or Amanda made a new connection with this person. It's those additional, and Robin, you hit it right on the head when you're talking about who are they connected to. So like if I'm out there looking and I'm saying, hey, I am in St. Louis and I need a new person for my team. Here's what I'm looking for. I'll start looking through and I might say, oh, that person is vaguely connected to me. I wonder if they know him. I'll go ask that person, hey, do you know Robin? Can you give me a little bit of background on that person? So it kind of links for that more outreach recruiting as compared to that, like we said, that flat resume that once it's on the paper, once it's in your inbox, it doesn't change until you get into an interview.
I'm assuming Amanda probably already covered this because I keep seeing resumes side by side, but I think just the fact that LinkedIn has like a format and constraints, and everybody will fill out experience, everybody will fill out education. It's really easy to kind of get a quick snapshot of someone, and it's really easy to kind of look at different people within the same lens. So that's something that's really interesting and advantageous about LinkedIn. Because you can quickly digest the information. So I really think to have, I'll touch on Amanda's point too, of like there also is the volunteer section, and to kind of use those already, the format of LinkedIn to really make it a well-rounded resume and then some. Just take advantage of LinkedIn, the format.
And I'll be really frank with all of you. If I get a resume and I'm looking to interview someone, I'll probably pull up their LinkedIn just to say, I want some more talking points for my interview. Maybe I want to ask a more pointed question of like, oh, I saw that you volunteer at this location. Let's talk about it. So if you have a LinkedIn, whether you update it or not, know that people do look at it. And it's not to say, I wouldn't say that if I see a profile that has nothing on it, it's not really going to change my opinion so much, but it will value add to the conversation because I can use that as like an initial research point for when we next talk.
Awesome. So building off of that, so if we're making our LinkedIn profile for the first time, what are some best practices for crafting an about section? What's some most important stuff to have on your profile? Is there anything that is less important to fill out if you're trying to like put one together really quickly to be ready for like a career fair or something like that?
I'd say that know that you don't have to fill out everything. So I would really use to be the things that you want to highlight are the things that you can upload to LinkedIn. And obviously you can be creative, especially as students. Whenever it comes to our portfolio, there's the project section and the about section. That's really important. I don't look at mine because I don't have one, but I've been meaning to write an about section. And I've been looking at some others. And I think the most effective way to do that is to kind of use that as your storytelling or your narrative. I was saying if I were to do one, I might do something like young professional fueled by a deep-seated belief that design and entrepreneurship are fundamentally alike. Like that would be like a succinct kind of tagline and kind of the narrative of what fuels me, why am I doing what I'm doing? I think that's what should be in the about section. And then, like I said, get creative with the rest, especially as students. If you don't have experience, you can fill out some of the other, but also I would say hold your horses. And if it's not something that you think, if it's not something like on your resume or significant, I'd be careful not to just make it scroll. So you just have a lot on LinkedIn. I would do the things that are kind of the highlights.
And I would say definitely on top of that, add like not focus, but add your interests. So like there are a lot of things that LinkedIn lets you do to tag and be in a community. So like mine, I'm looking at mine right now. My communities at the top of my page are my company and the University of Kansas. We have this wonderful network of the University of Kansas and it's awesome. And it just kind of makes you kind of wider known. And so exactly like Robin was saying is fill out those pieces, but make sure they're things that you're willing to talk about at the end of the day. So if you want to put yourself as an interest as something I'm interested in and you're willing to talk about it with someone, that's a great thing to highlight. But if you put it on there and you're not willing to talk about it, someone's going to ask you about it and you then have to be prepared for that. So using those different sections to highlight, I think that's the ultimate key is when someone's looking at your LinkedIn, they're not going to spend 20 minutes reading through the whole thing. They're kind of picking pieces and things to say, oh, what are some highlights about this person that I want to get to know more about?
Great. Going off of building up our LinkedIn, do you have any tips for choosing an appropriate photo or background photo?
This is where I say your photo should be professional. Like for me, my company does headshots. So in my case, I have a headshot on there. You want that to just be, again, the quick show that you're a professional, however you might do for like a portfolio or you want to send out with an intro to who you are. From a background standpoint, I'm looking at mine. I'm disappointed that I don't have one up there, but that's a great way to keep it professional, but show your personality. Like in my case, when I was in San Francisco, mine did used to show the Golden Gate Bridge. It was an easy way for people to recognize like, oh, that's a conversation I can have with Amanda. Or I will tell you this week, it's probably going to have something about NCAA championship because those are things I'm willing to talk about. If those are things you're not willing to talk about, don't put them on there. But in where I stand, I think the background's a great way to just show a little bit more of your personality, but again, like Robin pointed out, keep it professional. People will point it out. People will talk about it. It's not social media. So don't put, something completely random on there.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I would say keep it professional. I know in the past, AIAS has done headshots and take advantage of that. If you have the opportunity, get a headshot, get your headshot done. I'd refrain from selfies if you can. And I'll also say that we're all architects here, so we know Photoshop. So if you have a photo that you can improve, Photoshop, make it look a little bit more professional, utilize that too, because it's really important to kind of have a professional headshot. And I'd also say this is, it's not necessary, but it could be fun. Kind of like the background. I think you can also kind of incorporate your narrative in your profile picture if possible. I only just had that idea because we just took headshots at my office actually, and Moshe has this tagline, for everyone a garden, and we have all of our projects try and incorporate nature. And so all of our headshots are actually make sure that they have plants in them. So whether it's like in the back or wherever it is in the picture, we all have. So on the website, it's green, 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 green. So that's just kind of like an interesting way of, if you can, to incorporate that into your profile picture, but professional is the biggest thing to underscore there.
Awesome. So since we are architecture students, one of the main things that we seem to be promoting on LinkedIn is our portfolios. How do you find that it's best for us to integrate that into our LinkedIn? Because I know some people post that as like, here's my up-to-date portfolio and make it a post. But I know there's other ways that you can just like embed like your website into your page. Any advice?
I can go first on that. I think the posts are really effective, especially because it can be, I'm excited to share, and you can kind of put some commentary with it. So a post would be important, but I don't think that's the only place it should live. I do think that if you only want to highlight a couple, there is that project features in LinkedIn. But if you want to do kind of more than one or two and have the kind of full array of portfolio, which I actually think you should, I do know that it's becoming a trend that a lot of us have them on web URLs, either issue or WordPress, or I have one that's a website, robinpayne.me. So I still keep my portfolio, and I've also put a lot more of my personality in that too. So like photography, writing. So apart from LinkedIn, that's kind of like another kind of web trail that you can go on. If you're already on the computer, you can just click through. So I have it as my bio. Again, I want to be writing a bio, so it could live there, or there is the contact me where you can put a URL. Or there's even, whenever I think you go through the categories, you can have one that literally just says like web link or something, and it's a URL within LinkedIn. So I think definitely get your portfolio up. I think those are kind of options of ways to do it. But if you're going to do a post, I would have it reside either in a bio or your contact me or somewhere a little bit more tied to your profile and not just posts.
Is there, so while we're still in school, is there, and we're not everyone is necessarily looking for a job or internship quite yet. How should students who are a little bit younger be utilizing LinkedIn? Should they go ahead and make one? Like what does that look like?
So I think we've talked a lot about like the career search, but LinkedIn is, if you will, it's a presence for you. So it doesn't mean that you have to be actively seeking a job or trying to actively reach out to someone. It provides a space so that someone knows that you're there and you can reach out to them, even outside of the job space. Like, for example, in 3 years, maybe you're no longer at KU, but you're connected with the new AIAS president. And they can reach out to you and be like, hey, I see on your profile that you used to be a part of this. Can we chat? I'd love to I'd love to have you present and things. So I think creating a profile while you're in school and while you have the opportunity to build it and change it a lot, kind of to Robin's point, there's so many different ways you could add your portfolio. You're probably going to learn by looking at other people's, but you won't really know that until you connect with them and start looking at it. So things like career fairs, things like meetings like this, add people, say, hey, for example, I may not be in the architecture world, but I may connect you to someone else later down the road that you have no idea. So keeping and expanding that network and making sure that you think outside of your immediate sphere. You don't want to go too crazy. You want to make sure that the people that you're connecting with, you can actually reach out to. But don't feel like it just has to be people at the School of Architecture. Start there. Build there. And then when you meet Robin and Robin connects you, and then 5 years down the road, when you're like, hey, Robin, I see you're connected to this person. I want to talk to them, because it may be even just about something in your career and not about looking for a job. I've certainly used it to say, I have a question and I don't know where to start, but I've seen this person and I see this on their profile, maybe I'll start with them and see if that'll help me out. So I'd say definitely start it and play with it, expand it.
Okay, I love that answer. I think to just connect with people as you meet them, especially like young and going through school. I love that Amanda said, don't just do it in the architecture school. I've had one for a LinkedIn for a while, and it's been really beneficial to connect with people outside of architecture school too. One, because I'm in business development now within Safety Architects, and so even just engineers, people that I knew in business school, it's been really interesting on how those connections can still be fruitful. I'll also say that I've been out of school for almost 3 years now, and it's been fascinating and amazing what my colleagues are up to. So I'm so thankful that freshman year studio, I connected with this individual and I get to see what they're doing. So that's just fun. Whether it's beneficial or not, it's great to stay up to date with people. And you never know if you have a question or if you need to reach out to them. And then I'll also say the feed's really interesting. So as someone who's young in architecture school, if you connect with people, professors, they have interesting things to say, and they often use LinkedIn as their platform to say these things. So I think it's really fun to connect with your professors, see what they're saying. You can have a conversation with them, connect with alumni, see what they're doing. And it's kind of like another form of learning and getting to know the profession and the industry more. Yeah, it's a fascinating place, the world of LinkedIn.
I'll add to that too, like Robin, you mentioned connecting with someone fresh in your studio. If you do create a LinkedIn profile, make sure you check in on it. You don't have to change it. You don't have to be on there active the whole time, but make sure you know it's there. I will say I am very guilty that there have been times where someone will message me on there, and you can actually set it up so that it'll email notify you if you don't want to have the notifications on the app or you're not checking it regularly online. But just know that it's out there. So once you create it, make sure that you do check in on it, see if someone's messaged you. Maybe they haven't, great, go about your way. But if it's been a couple months, couple weeks, whatever your timeline may be, make sure that you're taking care of it and seeing if someone is trying to find you.
If I could kind of add a little something that from an academic standpoint and the way we use LinkedIn is when students are looking for internships and need some connections, while they're a student or the recent graduate, we can go through LinkedIn and see, oh, you're looking for a job in San Francisco, here are alumni in San Francisco. So that's the way I've used it. I know other faculty use it that way too, to help students get connected with each other. Other one is from more of an administrative standpoint. We like to see where our alumni are and how they're doing for a variety of reasons. And one of them, I'm just being open, is one is from fundraising, but another thing is we like to see, maybe kind of different routes our alumni have taken, maybe different positions in geography and so forth, different accomplishments, and we use that actually for handing out things like alumni awards. So that's kind of sometimes it's kind of our starting base because we don't know everybody. And so I have a group that I know and I'm connected to, and others have others. So we use that as kind of a common ground starting base to figure out, someone's been out for 10 years and has now reached principal level or something like that, and then kind of gets put into the pile. So
you mentioned a location, Jay, and that's a sneaky thing I learned recently. Your LinkedIn profile does not necessarily need to be the place you reside. It can be the place that you are seeking opportunities. So for example, if you were to go to my profile right now, it's going to say Akron, Ohio. I am responsible for hiring people in Akron, and I am trying to make more local connections. So the algorithm on LinkedIn, if I kept it at St. Louis right now, it's going to find me people in like a radius of the St. Louis metro, but I want to find people in the radius of Akron. The same goes for you. You're sitting in Lawrence right now, but maybe you want to go to San Francisco, you want to go to Orlando, Florida. You can change your profile. You just make that clear in that bio section. I am seeking opportunities here, and that location teaches LinkedIn how to find people as recommendations for you. I did not know that until a couple of weeks ago, and it has changed my recruiting life. But it can also help your opportunities and connection seeking as well.
That's a good point that you just brought up too, Amanda. There's an algorithm to LinkedIn. So I also want to go back to, you had said, Liz, if you're young and don't necessarily, you might not have experience yet, you might not, just to have one and to even just upload like your interests and just kind of tidbits. I think there's kind of lifelines of LinkedIn. For instance, I'm not actively job seeking right now, so I cleaned mine up like crazy. So it's very simple. It's not, but if I was actively job searching, I might go back and add some more things in. So it's like Amanda said, it's the living kind of resume that you can keep active. So if you're younger, if you just kind of fill as much as you can out, it's really interesting to see the algorithms. One, they can suggest you, like, is this something, a title that you want? So you can listen to that. And then two, if you do things like locations or interest, or I get things of like people you're connected with are connected to this person, or they're following this group or something. So utilizing the algorithms and just kind of logging on sometimes and just going and seeing what they want to recommend you is also a really good way to take advantage of the tool.
I got a quick question. It's kind of picking up on some of the stuff that was mentioned from you, Amanda and Robin. And right now, everyone online, students, so they're looking for their, they're looking for internships, and down the road it'll be their first kind of like full-time job. But I've noticed the past maybe 3+ years, more and more alumni have been telling me that they've, they're working at a firm, but then they get contacted through LinkedIn to say, hey, you want to come over here, visit our office, go, come for an interview. So I was wondering, how do you, this is for the students, a few years from now, but if you're involved with that, how do you go about seeking out, potential future employees?
So I will caveat this with, I work for a large firm, so we have 8,000 employees worldwide, and I fully recognize that we use it in a very different way than maybe a smaller firm, because I do have dedicated recruiters that actually go out on LinkedIn. But me as an individual person trying to fill a role on my team, maybe trying to source outside of what our recruiting team is doing, I tend to start with what I know as maybe the degree that I'm looking for, because I have an idea in mind. I have a job posting that I'm probably trying to fill it for. I will quite literally just go in and be like, I need a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. Who's in St. Louis? And you just kind of start from there. There are actual tools that can go in and things, but usually I start maybe with my connections. That's probably the majority of it if I'm completely sourcing it myself. But it's those keywords. So things that I think to look for, like location, skills are another big one, and interest. So that bio that Robin's been talking a lot about, that is huge because that is free form. That is completely, what do you want me to know? Do you want me to know you want to be involved in environmental? Do you want me to know that you're LEED certified? Do you want me to know that you're seeking a job in another location? It's pretty manual. But as a larger firm, there are ways that recruiters can do what they call a project. And it, back to the algorithm, it takes all of this data that you put in there. The more you tell it, the more likely you pop up in a search. And they will go through and be like, hey, Amanda, I found these 10 people that match the criteria you told me. Take a look at them. Let me know if you want me to reach out. But Jay, you're exactly right. LinkedIn is kind of the way of the future, especially in a market where it is a employees market. If you're looking for a job, it's pretty much the pick of the litter right now. And us as managers are just like finding every way that we can to seek out new people. And Robin, I don't know if your company is smaller than mine and maybe have a different way of how you all approach it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we don't necessarily, well, okay, we depend on people to vouch for others. So something that we do, which is really interesting, we're a much smaller firm. We only have about 80 people in Boston and some abroad. But what we do is, well, what SAFTI does is they incentivize their employees to go out and say, oh, I have this colleague, and we actually get a bonus if we recommend someone to the firm and they ultimately get hired. So that's really interesting because I think that's a really smart business move because they're trusting on us to, one, go as far as to vouch for someone and put it in front to say, like, we are confident in this person to actually put them forward. And then two, we know them personally. And so to Jay's point, I'll say that something that is really helpful on LinkedIn or whatnot is when I'm scrolling and either someone liked it or I see a post and I'm like, oh, this person, they'd be a great fit for SAFTI. I can't believe I didn't think of them, or wow, that's awesome, or I'm going to reach out. So to just use LinkedIn. So we're not necessarily like active. Well, maybe some people are if they want that bonus, but not necessarily actively like scrolling through and looking for people to recommend. But for a lot of us, it's who's already in our network and who's coming out of school or who was the best A+ student and they're moving to Boston and are looking for a new opportunity and they posted it on LinkedIn. So it's kind of those like serendipitous connections. And again, I don't necessarily actively recruit, but that's very helpful to be active on LinkedIn for that purpose.
Yeah, that was a really interesting perspective, because I know I definitely have been thinking about it more from like, the student perspective. So what Rob was talking about is people like posting stuff on her feed and that reminding her that like they exist. What sort of things should a student be posting on their feed? Should they post every project or portfolio update or highlights, or like building off that, like what should we be posting? How often should we be posting?
I can start with that. For again, for the algorithm, so as communications coordinator, I do a lot of the posting for Safety Architects, and it's interesting to see how far down the line people are still liking it. So how often, thankfully, it's actually not as often because it can live on for a very long time. Like if you scroll, you see that this person posted it a month ago and it's still on your feed. So that has to do with interaction. And so I don't necessarily think you have to be doing it every single day, but potentially probably whenever you have something interesting to either update on. So you can absolutely do updates about projects or interesting classes that you're taking or to that point. Or I also really love, I mentioned this earlier, kind of like those thought pieces or those provoking pieces where you reshare something that you saw and you say, hey, like connections, what do you think about this? I think la la la. It's super interesting to kind of see those type posts and interact in that way. It also works to come on the feed. Amanda said you can just like, sometimes I'll see that like this person liked that or this person commented. So it doesn't always have to be an organic post, but if you're active on there, your name does pop up and like you said, Liz, trigger the memory.
And some firms, I mean, it goes, like I said, people can go really deep with the algorithm. There are things, LinkedIn is its own company. It's trying to get interaction. There are ways for people to download reports if they pay for a certain level of like how many people clicked on a post. So like a company might do what's called a paid campaign and say who clicked on it. And that kind of helps once you're out of the out in the career field, because you might say like, I'm trying to get business with Robin and now it's going to click on it. You can use that same approach as a student of think about it. Someone's looking to who's clicking on it. You can post something and see who's liking yours. Who is this person that liked mine that I haven't heard about? Maybe I should reach out to them. And you can kind of reverse engineer that process as well to say, I am posting something that seemed interesting. I know sometimes I'll follow like local news or those type of places and they post a new bill came out or new law came out that might impact my industry. I'll post it. And then you can see who kind of liked it. And part of it comes down to just who was on it that day. You know, maybe people don't check it once every week, but when they did, that's when I posted it. It's all a bit of a timing thing. But as much as you care to interact, you can use it to figure out what people see, what you're posting, and use that to your advantage to see, oh, is that interesting? Maybe I should expand on that. No one was interested in it. I posted it at 11:59 on a Saturday night. The people that are on LinkedIn probably didn't see it till 8 a.m. on Monday. Maybe it's all the way at the bottom of their feed. So kind of to Robin's point, if it's interesting to you and it's thought provoking or you just want people to know about it or see it, that's when you should post it. But don't post simply to post. That kind of takes away from the value that you're trying to add with your input.
On a similar or tangentially related thing, one question that we had from the board was, how should you navigate the privacy settings? Is it better to have your profile 100% public, or if you're a little bit more cautious with your online presence, like how do you navigate that?
Robin, I wonder if we were in the same boat. That is a wonderful question. And when I fully figure it out, I promise to let everyone know. But it is, I think, an ongoing question and conversation. Kind of to the earlier point, it's not a social media. So you can very much limit and choose the amount of personal information that is on there. If you at the end of the day, you're usually using LinkedIn because you want somebody to see you and to be able to connect with you. So I have seen a lot where really, if you make that bio section public, is probably the first key. You can keep your individual jobs and resumes and things hidden if you would like, until someone becomes what's called a first connection, until they reach out to you or you reach out to them and you make that connection. But you want people to find you. So having simply my name on there, not the company I work for, not what I do, not my bio, doesn't make it enticing for someone to look at mine, reach out to me and say, hey, what do you do? So it is a fine balance, but keep in mind that you're not posting personal pictures usually on there. You're not connecting it to your Facebook page. You're not doing all of those things. So it is a different world of privacy. And at the end of the day, people are seeking the information that's on there. So keep it to your own comfort level, but make sure that it is useful to the outside world.
Yeah, this is a tough question. That's why I think we're both laughing. I don't have an answer, but what I would say is, for those of you who are new to LinkedIn, if you are public, everybody can see if you look at another public profile. So that's something you should absolutely know, that we'll get a notification that says so-and-so viewed. There's also different levels. So it could also be like, no name, but from Safety Architects viewed your profile. So I would definitely do a Google search. I don't even totally understand. I actually have everything on, I have everything public for viewing, but I have my kind of navigation private. So I don't know who looks at my profile, and so subsequently no one knows when I look at their profile. That's the payoff, except for if you pay for LinkedIn. So I don't recommend it always, because it's a little pricey and it's definitely a subscription. But if you're job searching, I did activate premium, and what premium does is it allows you to see who's viewing your profile. It allows you to look at profiles in privacy mode, and it allows you to reach out to people that you're not connected with. So you have a certain amount, or you can pay for more. But if they're not public and you're unable to contact them unless you're connected, premium's a way to, like, I wasn't connected with Tess, my current boss. And as you know, I paid for premium. I got to reach out. I have a job now. So that's something that I would consider if you're actively job searching. But really, to underscore what I first said, look at the privacy settings, because some people might know that you're stalking them. Make sure you're on private if you don't want them to know that you look at their profile.
And Robin, I kind of forgot about that. So I'm glad you said it, because I'm over here looking at the settings, and there are job seeking preferences. So like, you can change things to say, I don't want people to see this, but if I put this button on and I'm job seeking, it'll change it for that little time. So I'm glad you said that, because there are so many things on here and so many ways to use it. So definitely take a minute, look at it, and go to your personal comfort level.
Yeah, I would definitely kind of look around in those settings too, because if the day comes whenever you have a job and you might be job seeking for other jobs, I think you can also like turn it off and say hidden from someone in my company, or like, so there's like lots of options that you can do within the settings. So check those out and make sure to either toggle on and off according to your preferences and your needs at that time.
Great. Not as related, but what kind of skills are recruiters looking to see at your profile?
I'll admit, in the skills section, I never look at it because it's at the bottom of most people's page. I usually don't even get there. It's valuable, especially at the collegiate level, when you can start kind of posting some of maybe those soft skills or those technologies, because people can endorse your skills. So say you work on a project with someone and you comment that you're really good at Revit. Someone can say, a professor can say, I agree with that. I endorse Amanda for Revit. Please don't. I'm not great at Revit. It's not a thing I do. But you can, and you can say, I agree. I can have that professor relationship. In the professional world, I haven't noticed it as much. But that may just be because LinkedIn unfortunately puts it at the bottom. But I definitely know when people are still at the college level, provides a great way back to your professors.
Yeah, I also don't often look at skills, but I think especially with the architecture and engineering type educations, I think that's a really good place to put your computer skills, like Amanda said, because that's almost just like check, check, check. And we have that section on our resume, like proficient in. So that could be a place you put Rhino, Revit, Lumion, whatever, like whatever you're using. And then also I would say, thankfully, Amanda keeps calling LinkedIn your living resume. If you are actively job searching and if you're eyeing a very particular job, this would be a lot of effort, but you could also cater your LinkedIn at that time for that job. So job postings often have, like, you have to have a bachelor's, you have to have communication skill, you have to know Revit, you have to, so it will list like bullet points of what you have to have. And so you can make sure in that skill section might be a good place to be like, it might say like works well with others. So guess what? Collaboration, like you can put that and kind of cater it. I wouldn't necessarily have a ton of them because then they get diluted, and then the endorsements are interesting because if you don't get endorsed for one or you have like one endorsement. So I actually have a couple right now, but I'm genuinely thinking, especially because I'm not actively job searching, I'm just taking those off because of the endorsements. But they are really useful when you kind of want to get those lists and those check marks. And then if that question was kind of, so that's like the skills portion. And then I would also just say LinkedIn as a whole, if you're talking skills, not that little portion, but like the skills kind of big picture of LinkedIn, I think what would be most important is, I think it's a great place to just be a well-rounded person, because there's also, like Amanda said, there's the interest, which just is not necessarily like, it's not free form like the bio, but it's just like, I like Brene Brown, that's someone that I like. So it's like there, and then that's like a fun connection. Or volunteering, like I volunteer with Big Sister Boston. That's really cool for me to put color to who I am on my LinkedIn profile. So again, it's still professional, especially because it's just like you connect with it. It's like an icon in Big Sister Boston. I don't have to do a blurb with it or anything. I could, but keep it professional. But I think just to be a well-rounded person, and also to just have a really good, clear, concise synopsis of who I am, the professional I intend to be. So aspirations is important, especially as a student, which can come through in your bios. And also the value that I can add to your company with my experience, with my education. Just kind of try and capture and make it really clear for someone looking to make a hire.
All right. As we get into the last 10 minutes or so, do you guys have any general advice for students? Anything we didn't totally cover? If there are any other students that have any other questions, feel free to either put them in the chat, come off mute to ask them. Otherwise, we'll do a general advice wrap up.
I think my last piece, or my overall general advice, is there is a little tool on LinkedIn that you can view your profile as the public. Definitely look at that and see, put your other hat on, or show it to someone else and say, look at my profile, does this make sense? There's so many nifty little features on there, but making sure that you don't just look at it as the builder, but also how are other people viewing it. Also, I enjoy LinkedIn, I use it a lot, but also don't let it overwhelm you. It can very easily overwhelm you if you try to understand every piece of it and do all the things and, oh, I need to check it every day. Use it as a tool. Make sure you check in on it if you have one. But it's a networking tool. It's a way to connect with other people. It does not need to take over your life, and it does not need to be this big scary thing, which I will say for me it was. It's there. Once it's there, use it to reach out to people as needed.
I think my final tidbit of advice would be look at the job sections, because like I said, I found my job in there. But with that said, I will also say that a lot of times it's posted on LinkedIn, and there is like the apply on LinkedIn option. But I would also really ensure to go on their website, and sometimes they have their own portals, or they have emails to send it to. Because I actually recently learned, because we had someone post a job for Safety Architects, but we didn't post it. So it's also a crowdsource, like it does have its errors, and sometimes it's actually not the company on the other side, but it's such a good place to find a survey of what's out there, to look at the jobs that are open, and then get off LinkedIn and go to their actual website and apply according to their instructions would be some advice that I would give. And then also use those connections, reach out to people, build your connections, look at your feed, because it could be really interesting. And also you can see someone doing something really cool that you, especially in the architecture industry. I went to school, I love school, I got out of school and learned so many more things that you can do with architecture that I had no idea was even an option when I was in school. So it's cool to watch what people are doing, and then absolutely reach out to the people that you know and say, can you connect me with that person? And happy hunting and good luck.
Also, kudos to all of you that have been making connections on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn just blew up during this presentation, and I love that. So well done.
Awesome. Well, just a quick AIAS announcement that we do have elections for the e-board, and they are open until Sunday. Robin, if you want to promote anything about your time as president,
I was just gonna say,
why should people be on the e-board?
Everybody should absolutely do it. It was such a good experience, especially because I think it really got you involved with nationals and other chapters and other students. So talk about LinkedIn connections. I get to see what people are doing all over the United States, and AIAS even has international chapters. So it's such a good organization to be, one, plugged into, and two, the executive board is just a whole new experience. You have leadership skill sets, and I still talk about it when I applied to jobs. I also had the opportunity to serve as a director on the NAB, and that was because of AIAS. So the doors that it opens is absolutely incredible, and everybody should consider being on the executive board. Amazing experience and really good for the resume and for your LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. Jay, do you have anything you want to add based on, like, where should students connect to you? Where should students connect to the school? How should we go about that?
For me, just get on LinkedIn as soon as possible. And then as you go through the program, and especially after you graduate, continue to update your activities, because as a school, that's what we really want to see. This. So Robin, I know you're on the national. We made a note that actually, I pulled it off of LinkedIn. I was looking at all the alumni. Recently, we got to submit a report. I pulled that out and submitted that as part of the report. And it's also a great way for us to help students connect to alumni, and alumni help them to connect to other alumni. So the sooner you can join, the better. I think I shared this with the students in my class of 531, but we're gonna try using LinkedIn as kind of primary networking as a student. So starting freshman year, first year, like in 103, we're gonna have everybody set up a LinkedIn account and then connect to the school, so then we can see where everybody goes down the road. And to Amanda and Robin, thank you very, very much for spending your time with us. Greatly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
I love AIAS, of course.
Yes. All right. Well, connect with Robin and Amanda on LinkedIn if you haven't already. And thank you guys so much for joining us. And we have another licensure panel April 21st, partnering with Casey Noma. And that will be on Zoom as well. Check or keep up to date with the chats for that. And then we have our final general body meeting where we will announce the winners of the elected board on April 27th in Marvin. So hope to see you guys there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Rock Jack.